The sky over New York City turned dark at 3 in the afternoon. People stopped walking and looked up. Above them, massive ships appeared out of nowhere. The ships were black and shaped like knives. They floated silently in the air, blocking out the sun. Within minutes, every major city on Earth saw the same thing. The aliens had arrived. Helen Mitchell sat in the White House Situation Room staring at the screens. She was the President of the United States, and right now she felt completely helpless. The ships had appeared everywhere at once. Moscow, Beijing, London, Tokyo, Sydney. Everywhere humans lived, the ships waited. Then every television, every phone, every computer screen showed the same thing. An alien face appeared. It had large black eyes and a mouth that looked like it belonged to an insect. When it spoke, the words came out in perfect English. People of Earth, I am Admiral Kravoth of the Zetharian Empire. Your planet has been chosen. You will surrender your governments to us within 3 days. If you refuse, we will destroy your cities one by one. You cannot fight us. You cannot hide from us. Surrender is your only option. The message ended. The screens went back to normal, but the ships stayed in the sky. Paul Warren was a general. He had spent 40 years in the military. He had fought in wars and commanded thousands of soldiers. Now he stood next to the president and shook his head. We tried everything, Madame President. We fired missiles at them. Nothing got through. Their ships have some kind of shield. Our weapons just bounce off. Even nuclear weapons won't work. Helen looked at the other people in the room. They all looked scared. She needed to be strong for them. There has to be something. We can't just give up. Amanda Price stepped forward. She was a scientist who advised the president on new technology. She looked nervous but determined. Madam President, there might be one option. But it's risky. Very risky. Tell me. 6 years ago, we found something in Antarctica. Something buried deep in the ice. We've been studying it ever since, but we kept it secret. What we found down there, it's not human. And it might be our only chance. Helen stood up. Show me everything. And get me someone who can handle this. Someone tough and smart. Amanda nodded. I know just the person. His name is Jake Morrison. He's a colonel in special operations. If anyone can handle what's down there, it's him. Across the world, people looked at the sky and felt fear. Some prayed. Some cried. Some got angry. But nobody knew what to do. How could humans fight ships that big? How could they fight aliens with technology so far beyond their own? In Antarctica, the wind howled across the frozen landscape. Deep beneath the ice, something waited. Something that had been sleeping for a very long time. Something that was about to wake up. Jake Morrison got the call while he was in Virginia. He had just finished training a new team of soldiers. When his phone rang, he saw it was a number he didn't recognize. But the voice on the other end said words that made him pay attention. Colonel Morrison, this is a Priority 1 alert. The President needs you in Antarctica immediately. A plane is waiting for you. Jake didn't ask questions. He grabbed his gear and headed for the airfield. During the flight, he tried to figure out what could be so important in Antarctica. Everyone knew about the alien ships. Everyone knew they only had 3 days. Why would the president send him to the bottom of the world when Earth was about to be invaded? The plane landed at McMurdo Station 12 hours later. Amanda Price was waiting for him. She wore a heavy coat and looked tired. Colonel Morrison, thank you for coming so quickly. What I'm about to show you is classified at the highest level. Only a handful of people know about this. They walked to a building at the edge of the station. Inside, there was an elevator. They got in and started going down. The elevator kept going down for a long time. Jake watched the numbers count up. 1 kilometer. 2 kilometers. 3 kilometers. How deep does this go? He asked. 3.5 kilometers, Amanda said. We found it by accident. A research team was drilling ice cores to study climate change. Their drill hit something that shouldn't have been there. Something metal. The elevator stopped. The doors opened. Jake stepped out and stopped walking. His mouth fell open. He was standing in a huge cave, but the cave walls were smooth and covered with strange symbols that glowed with a soft blue light. In the center of the cave was a cylinder made of clear ice. Inside the ice was a figure. It looked almost human. It was tall, maybe 7 feet. It wore armor that seemed to be made of metal and crystal at the same time. Even frozen solid, even covered in ice, it looked powerful. It looked dangerous. What is that? Jake asked quietly. Nathan Cross walked up to them. He was another scientist who had been studying the discovery. We don't know exactly. but we've run every test we can. The ice around it is 12,000 years old. But the being inside, it's not dead. Its cells are still alive somehow. It's like it's sleeping. Jake walked closer to the cylinder. He looked at the face behind the ice. It looked peaceful. Almost human, but not quite. The skin had a slight shine to it, like metal. The symbols on its armor seemed to move when he wasn't looking directly at them. "You want to wake it up," he said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," Amanda said. "We've run every simulation. Every possible scenario. Without help, Earth falls in 3 days. The Zetharians will kill billions of people, but this being, whatever it is, had technology far beyond anything we've ever seen. The metal in this cave alone is something our best scientists can't identify. If we wake it up, maybe it can help us. And if it wants to kill us, then we're no worse off than we are now." Jake looked at the frozen figure for a long time. Every instinct told him this was a bad idea. You don't wake up something you don't understand. You don't take risks like this. But Amanda was right. In 3 days, the Zetharians would start killing people. Earth had no defense, no hope. How long will it take to wake it up? Nathan stepped forward with a tablet. "We've been preparing for this possibility. We have a process ready. It will take about 18 hours. We'll slowly heat the ice and use electrical pulses to stimulate its nervous system. If everything goes right, it should wake up naturally. And if everything goes wrong..." Nathan didn't answer. He didn't need to. Jake made his decision. "Do it. Start the process now. I'll stay here and keep watch. If that thing wakes up and tries to hurt anyone, I'll stop it." Amanda gave orders to her team. Scientists rushed around, setting up equipment. Machines were rolled into place around the ice cylinder. Cables were connected. Lights started blinking. The process had begun. In 18 hours, they would know if they had saved Earth or doomed it. The machines hummed steadily as they worked. Jake Morrison stood 10 feet away from the ice cylinder, watching every detail. He had been standing there for 16 hours now. He refused to sit down. He refused to look away. His weapon was loaded with special bullets that Amanda said might work against alien biology. He doubted it would matter if things went bad. Nathan Cross checked his instruments for the 100th time. Temperature is rising steadily. We're at -5 degrees Celsius now. The ice is melting slowly from the inside out. Neural activity is increasing. Amanda stood next to Nathan, watching the readings on her tablet. "This is incredible. Look at these cell patterns. They're adapting to the temperature change in real time. Whatever this being is, its biology is far beyond anything on Earth." Around them, a dozen scientists worked quietly. Everyone spoke in whispers as if afraid to wake the sleeping figure too suddenly. The air felt heavy with tension. Outside the cave, the world was counting down to invasion. Inside the cave, they were trying to wake up something that might save them or destroy them. The ice continued to melt. Water ran down the sides of the cylinder and pooled on the floor. Slowly, the figure inside became clearer. Jake could see more details now. The armor wasn't just metal. It had patterns that seemed to shift and change. The face was peaceful but strong. This being had been a warrior once. Jake could tell just by looking at it. "Neural activity is spiking," Nathan said suddenly. His voice was tight with excitement or fear. Maybe both. "It's waking up." Jake raised his weapon slightly, not pointing it at the cylinder but ready. Everyone stepped back. "Give it space." The scientists moved back toward the walls of the cave. Only Amanda, Nathan, and Jake stayed close. The last of the ice melted away. The figure stood in the cylinder, water dripping off its armor. For a moment, nothing happened. Then its eyes opened. They were silver. Bright silver like polished metal. They glowed slightly in the dim light of the cave. The being looked around slowly, taking in everything. Its gaze passed over the scientists, the equipment, the walls of the cave. When those silver eyes focused on Jake, he felt like he was being measured and judged. The being stepped out of the cylinder. Water splashed under its feet. It moved smoothly, like someone who had just woken up from a normal sleep. Not someone who had been frozen for 12,000 years. It looked at its hands, flexed its fingers, checked its armor. Everything seemed to work. Then it spoke. The words came out in a language Jake had never heard. But somehow he understood them. Everyone understood them. The being's voice seemed to translate itself directly into their minds. "How long?" Amanda stepped forward carefully. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. 12,000 years. Maybe more. "We're not completely sure. My name is Amanda Price. We need your help. The being looked at her for a long moment. Then it looked at Nathan and Jake and the other scientists. It seemed to be thinking hard about something. 12,000 years. I was supposed to sleep for 20,000. Something must have damaged the stasis field. It looked down at the melted ice. You woke me early. That means something is very wrong. Jake lowered his weapon slightly. The being didn't seem hostile. It seemed confused and concerned. What's your name? He asked. I am called Kairos. I was a sentinel of the Progenitor Alliance. Kairos looked at Jake with those strange silver eyes. You are a warrior. I can see it in how you stand, how you watch for danger. Tell me what threatens this world. Jake explained about the Zetharian ships. He told Kairos about the 3-day deadline. He described how Earth's weapons couldn't touch the alien shields. As he talked, Kairos's expression changed. The peaceful look faded. Something harder appeared in those silver eyes. The Zetharians, Kairos said. The word sounded like a curse. They are scavengers. They prey on young civilizations that cannot defend themselves. They steal resources and enslave populations. They are cowards who only attack the weak. Can you help us? Amanda asked. Can you fight them? Kairos looked at her. How much time is left? Nathan checked his watch. 22 hours. They'll start bombing cities in 22 hours. Kairos closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, they glowed brighter. I need to reach the surface. I need to activate the planetary defense system. What planetary defense system? Amanda asked. This world is a reserve planet. The progenitors marked it as protected 12,000 years ago. They placed me here to guard it. But I failed. I let myself get trapped in the ice during a storm. The defense system went into standby mode when I fell into stasis. I need to wake it up again. Jake looked at Amanda. She looked back at him. They were both thinking the same thing. This Kairos was talking about technology that could defend the whole planet. Technology that had been here for 12,000 years buried under the ice. How do we get you to the surface? Jake asked. The same way you came down. But we need to hurry. If the Zetharians have already begun their attack pattern, time is running short. They all moved quickly to the elevator. Kairos had to duck slightly to fit inside. As the elevator rose, Amanda asked questions. What are the progenitors? Who are they? They were an ancient civilization, perhaps the oldest in the galaxy. They disappeared long ago. Nobody knows where they went or what happened to them. But before they left, they created many things. They seeded worlds with life. They built defenses. They left guardians like me to protect special places. Why is Earth special? Nathan asked. Kairos looked at him. Because the progenitors put humans here. They wanted to see what your species would become without interference from other civilizations. You are an experiment. A test to see if humanity could grow and develop on its own. The elevator reached the surface. They stepped out into the cold Antarctic wind. Kairos walked out onto the ice and looked up at the sky. He raised his arms and the armor on his body began to glow. Symbols appeared in the air around him. The same symbols that were carved into the walls of the cave below. What's he doing? Jake asked Amanda. I don't know, but look at the energy readings. Amanda held up her tablet. The numbers on it were going crazy. He's producing more power than a nuclear reactor. Where's it coming from? Kairos spoke, but not to them. He seemed to be talking to something in the air. Guardian Protocol Omega-7. Authorization code Sentinel Prime. Wake up. We have intruders. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the sky changed. A shimmer appeared above Antarctica. It spread outward like ripples on a pond. Within seconds, it covered the entire continent. Then it kept going. It spread over the ocean, over the land, over every part of Earth. A shield, invisible but powerful, wrapped around the whole planet. People around the world looked up and saw the shimmer pass over them. They didn't understand what it was. But somehow they felt safer. On the Zetharian flagship in orbit, alarms started blaring. Admiral Kravoth rushed to the bridge of his ship. What's happening? He demanded. His tactical officer looked terrified. Admiral, a shield just activated around the planet. It came from the southern continent. The energy signature is, Admiral, it's progenitor technology. Kravoth felt his blood run cold. That's impossible. The progenitors are gone. They vanished millennia ago. Then explain that shield, Admiral, and explain the power source we're detecting on the surface. Something just woke up down there. Something very old and very powerful. Kravoth looked at the planet below. For the first time in his career, he felt afraid. The progenitors were legends. Stories used to scare young officers. But if this really was their technology, then he had made a terrible mistake. You didn't attack progenitor worlds. Everyone knew that. The price was too high. "Prepare to retreat," he said quietly. "Admiral, we haven't even begun the invasion." "I said prepare to retreat, but first send a probe down to confirm what we're seeing. I need to know what's down there before I report this to the Empire." On the surface, Kiros lowered his arms. The glowing symbols faded. He turned to look at Jake and Amanda. "The shield is active. They cannot harm this world now, but they will test it. They will try to attack. And when they do, I will show them why the progenitors marked this world as forbidden." Jake felt a strange sense of hope. Maybe, just maybe, Earth had a chance. The first attack came exactly 72 hours after the Zetharian ultimatum. Admiral Krevoth had decided to test the shield. He ordered his ships to fire on 3 major cities at once: New York, London, and Tokyo. Massive plasma beams shot down from orbit, bright enough to light up the night sky. People on the ground screamed and ran. They thought these were their last moments. The beams were so bright they hurt to look at, so hot that the air itself seemed to burn. They struck the shield, covering Earth with tremendous force, and did nothing. The shield absorbed the energy like it was nothing. The beams hit and disappeared. No explosion, no damage, nothing. The cities below were completely safe. Helen Mitchell watched from the White House Situation Room. She had been awake for 3 days straight, waiting for this moment. When the shield held, she felt tears running down her face. They had a chance. Earth had a real chance. In Antarctica, Kairos felt the attack through his connection to the shield. He had been meditating, gathering his strength. Now he opened his eyes. Those silver eyes began to glow brighter. "They tested the shield," he said to Jake, who had been standing guard nearby. "Now they know it works. But they will keep trying. They are foolish and greedy. They think numbers will overcome my defenses." "Can they?" Jake asked. "If they hit the shield enough times, can they break through?" Kiros shook his head. "No. The shield draws power from the planet's magnetic field and from quantum sources they cannot detect. It will hold for centuries if needed. But I will not wait that long. It is time to send them a message." He walked out onto the ice. Amanda and Nathan followed with their equipment, recording everything. They wanted to document whatever was about to happen. Around the world, satellites and cameras were focused on Antarctica. Everyone wanted to see the being who had saved them. Kiros raised one hand toward the sky. His armor began to glow with that strange inner light. The symbols on his chest and arms moved and shifted. Then from his palm, a beam of pure white energy erupted upward. The beam moved faster than anything made by humans. It covered the distance between Earth and orbit in less than a second. It struck the nearest Zetharian ship directly in its center. The ship's shields tried to activate. They failed. The beam punched through the hull like it was made of paper. For a moment, the ship seemed to hold together. Then it exploded in a brilliant flash of light that could be seen from the ground. People around the world cheered. One ship down, but there were dozens more in orbit. On the Zetharian flagship, panic spread through the crew. Admiral Krevoth watched the destruction of one of his best ships and felt ice in his chest. "Return fire! All ships, concentrate your fire on that location." 20 ships turned their weapons toward Antarctica. They fired everything they had. Plasma beams, missiles, energy torpedoes. The sky lit up with weapons fire. All of it aimed at one man standing on the ice. Kairos didn't move. He raised his other hand. Around him, the air seemed to split open. Dozens of glowing shapes appeared, floating in the air. They looked like weapons from a science fiction movie. Each one pulsed with power. "Guardian defense matrix active," Kiros said calmly. "Intercept mode engaged." The floating weapons moved on their own. They shot outward, meeting the Zetharian attacks in midair. Every missile was destroyed. Every beam was blocked or redirected. None of the attacks reached Kairos, none even got close. Then the floating weapons turned toward orbit. They streaked upward, leaving trails of light behind them. Each one locked onto a Zetharian ship. Admiral Krevoth watched in horror as the weapons approached. "Evasive maneuvers! Jump to hyperspace!" But it was too late. The weapons struck, not to destroy but to disable. They hit the engines of ship after ship. Explosions rippled across the fleet. Ships lost power and started drifting. Their weapons went offline. Their shields failed. Kiros had crippled the entire fleet in less than 5 minutes. He lowered his hands. The glowing weapons faded away. He looked up at the sky as if he could see the damaged ships in orbit. "Leave this system," his voice boomed out, somehow broadcasting to every Zetharian ship. "Return to your empire and tell them what you found here. Tell them this world is protected. Tell them the Sentinels still watch, and tell them that if they return I will not be so gentle." On the flagship, Admiral Kravoth's officers looked at him. They were all scared. They had never seen power like this, never seen their fleet so easily defeated. "Admiral, what are your orders?" Kravoth wanted to fight. His pride demanded it, but he wasn't stupid. This being, this Sentinel, had destroyed or disabled a third of his fleet without even trying. If they stayed, they would all die. "Retreat! Full retreat! All ships that still have engines jump to hyperspace immediately. We're leaving this cursed system." One by one, the Zetharian ships vanished. They jumped away, fleeing as fast as they could. Within 10 minutes, Earth's orbit was clear. Only debris remained, floating silently in space. Around the world, people watched and couldn't believe what they had seen. One being had defeated an entire alien fleet. One person had saved Earth from invasion. The celebration started slowly in one city, then spread to others. Soon, every city on Earth was filled with people cheering and crying with joy. In Antarctica, Kira swayed slightly. Jake rushed forward and caught him before he could fall. "Are you okay?" Jake asked. Kairos nodded. "I am tired. I have been asleep for 12,000 years. My body is still adjusting, and using that much power takes effort even for me." Amanda came over with water and a medical scanner. "Your energy readings dropped significantly. You need rest. I will rest soon. But first I need to speak with your leaders. They will have questions, and I have things I must tell them." Within hours, arrangements were made. Kairos would address the United Nations. Every world leader wanted to meet him. Everyone wanted to thank him, to understand him, to know if he would stay and protect Earth. Jake helped Kairos to a transport plane. As they flew toward New York, Jake asked the question that was bothering him. "You could have destroyed all their ships, but you didn't. You just disabled them and let them run away. Why?" Kairos looked out the window at the clouds below. "Because I am not a murderer. The Zetharians are bullies and cowards, but they are still living beings. Many of those ships had crews of hundreds. Engineers, doctors, cooks, people just doing their jobs. They deserved a chance to leave and live. But won't they come back? Won't they attack again? No, they will spread the word. They will tell other species what happened here. Earth will be marked as forbidden. Most civilizations will respect that mark. They know the legends of the progenitors. They know not to anger the Sentinels." "Most civilizations," Jake repeated. "But not all?" Kairos nodded slowly. "Not all. There are always those who are foolish or desperate enough to ignore warnings. When they come, I will be ready." The plane landed in New York. A massive crowd waited at the airport. When Kairos stepped off the plane, people cheered so loudly it hurt to hear. They wanted to touch him, to thank him, to see the being who had saved them. Kairos looked uncomfortable with the attention. He was a soldier, not a celebrity, but he understood that these people needed this. They needed to see him, needed to believe they were safe. President Helen Mitchell met him at the United Nations building. She shook his hand and looked into those silver eyes. "On behalf of all humanity, thank you. You saved us when we had no hope." Kairos bowed his head slightly. "I did what I was made to do. I protected this world as the progenitors commanded. But now we must talk about the future, because the galaxy will not forget what happened here today, and Earth must be ready for what comes next." They walked into the United Nations chamber together. Every seat was filled. Every eye was on Kairos, the being from the ice, the Sentinel who had saved Earth, the Guardian who had been sleeping for 12,000 years. It was time for humanity to learn the truth about its place in the galaxy. The United Nations chamber had never been so quiet. Every world leader sat in their seat, staring at Kairos as he stood at the center podium. Cameras from every nation broadcast his image around the world. Billions of people watched and waited to hear what he would say. Kairos looked around the chamber slowly. He seemed to be measuring everyone there, judging them in some way. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm but powerful. "I am Kairos, Sentinel of the Progenitor Alliance. I was placed on this world 12,000 years ago with a single mission: protect Earth and allow humanity to develop without interference. I failed that mission when I became trapped in the ice. But I am awake now, and I have things you need to know about your world and your place in the galaxy. Helen Mitchell spoke up. Please, tell us everything. We need to understand what's happening. Kiros nodded. The universe is full of life. Thousands of species spread across millions of worlds. Most are peaceful. They trade, share knowledge, and help each other grow. But some, like the Zetharians, prey on younger civilizations. They look for worlds that have developed technology but cannot yet defend themselves. These predators steal resources, enslave populations, and destroy cultures. A representative from China stood up. Why didn't we know about any of this? Why hasn't anyone contacted us before? Because this world is marked as forbidden. The progenitors designated Earth as a reserve world. They seeded it with human DNA and set up defenses to keep other species away. They wanted to see what humanity would become without outside influence. Most civilizations respect these markers. They know the legends of the progenitors and fear their technology. But the Zetharians are desperate. Their empire is failing. They took a risk attacking Earth, hoping the old defenses were no longer active. Amanda Price had been given a seat in the chamber as one of the scientists who had found Kairos. She raised her hand. You said the progenitors seeded Earth with human DNA. Does that mean we're not originally from here? No, you are from here, but the progenitors guided your evolution. They took primitive life that was already on this planet and carefully shaped it over millions of years. They wanted to create a species that was intelligent, creative, and adaptable. They succeeded. Humanity has all those traits and more. A representative from India stood. Where are the progenitors now? Will they come back? Kairos was quiet for a moment. I do not know. The progenitors vanished long before I was placed in stasis. There are many theories. Some say they transcended physical form and became beings of pure energy. Others believe they were destroyed by something we don't understand. Still others think they simply left this galaxy to explore beyond. I am one of the last sentinels, and even I do not know the truth. Helen Mitchell asked the question everyone wanted answered. Will you stay? Will you continue to protect us? Yes, I will stay. It is my duty and my purpose, but you must understand something important. I can defend you from external threats, but I cannot solve your internal problems. I cannot make you unite. I cannot stop you from fighting each other. I cannot force you to work together. Those things you must do yourselves. Paul Warren stood up. He was the general who advised the president. You said most civilizations respect the forbidden marker. But what about the ones who don't? What other threats are out there? Kairos looked at him with respect, another warrior asking the right questions. There are several major powers in the galaxy. The Zetharian Empire, weakened but still dangerous. The Krill Collective, a hive mind species that consumes entire planets. The Varick Federation, a military alliance that controls hundreds of systems. The Merchants Guild, who value profit above all else, and there are others. Smaller groups, pirates, religious fanatics. The galaxy is not a safe place. How do we protect ourselves? Warren asked. We can't rely on you alone. What if something happens to you? What if multiple enemies attack at once? You are right to think this way. You need to become stronger. You need better technology, better weapons, better ships. But you cannot rush. If I simply give you advanced technology without understanding, you will hurt yourselves more than any enemy could. Nathan Cross spoke up from his seat. What do you mean? Imagine giving nuclear weapons to people from your ancient past, people who still fought with swords and arrows. They would not understand what they had. They would use the weapons and destroy themselves. Advanced technology is the same. You must earn it. You must grow into it. You must prove you can handle the responsibility. A representative from Russia stood. How long will that take? How long before we can stand on our own? Kairos thought about this. Your species develops quickly, faster than most. In the time I have been asleep, you went from primitive agriculture to splitting atoms and reaching space. That is remarkable. If you continue at this pace, truly unite your world, and focus on progress instead of conflict, perhaps 100 years, maybe less. 100 years, Helen said quietly. That's a long time. For a species, it is nothing. For individuals, it feels like forever. I understand. But there are no shortcuts. You must walk the path yourselves. For the next several hours, Kiros answered questions. He explained the basics of galactic politics. He described different alien species and their cultures. He talked about the technology that was common in the galaxy, things like faster-than-light travel, energy shields, and artificial gravity. The more he talked, the more humanity understood how far behind they were. Earth was like a child trying to sit at an adult table. They had barely left their own planet while other species crossed the galaxy in days. But Kiros also gave them hope. He explained that humanity had something special, a creativity and determination that most species lacked, a willingness to try new things and take risks. These traits would serve them well if they could learn to use them properly. Finally, after hours of questions, Helen Mitchell stood up. Kiros, you have given us much to think about. On behalf of Earth, I want to formally ask, will you help us prepare for the future? Will you teach us what we need to know? Kiros bowed his head. I will, but I have conditions. First, Earth must work toward unity. I will not help you build weapons to use against each other. Second, you must be patient. Learning takes time. Third, you must promise to use what I teach you responsibly. The galaxy does not need another aggressive species. We agree to your terms, Helen said. Representatives from every nation nodded. They understood this was not a negotiation. Kiros was offering them a gift. They would be fools to refuse. Then I will stay. I will teach. And I will protect you, while you grow strong enough to protect yourselves. The chamber erupted in applause. People around the world celebrated. Earth had a guardian, a teacher, a protector who would help them reach for the stars. But in the back of the chamber, Jake Morrison watched and felt uneasy. He trusted Kiros. He believed the Sentinel meant what he said, but Jake had been a soldier long enough to know that promises were easy. Following through was hard, and he wondered what would happen when Earth faced its next threat. Would they be ready? Would they be strong enough? Only time would tell. After the meeting, Kiros was taken to a secure facility where he would live and work. It was built quickly, designed to give him space and privacy. Jake was assigned as his military liaison. He would help Kiros interact with Earth's military and security forces. That night, Jake found Kiros standing outside looking up at the stars. Do you miss it? Jake asked. Being out there? Kiros nodded. Yes. The galaxy is vast and beautiful. I have seen things you cannot imagine. Nebulas that glow with 1,000 colors. Planets made entirely of crystal. Space stations the size of your moon. I have met species so different from humans they might as well be living ideas instead of physical beings. Do you regret staying here? Protecting us? Kiros looked at Jake. No. This is my purpose, my duty. And I have come to admire your species. You have flaws, certainly. You fight and argue and make mistakes. But you also dream. You hope. You try to be better than you are. That is rare in the galaxy. Most species reach a point where they stop growing, stop changing. They become comfortable with what they are. Humans never seem satisfied. You always want more, want to be better. That could be your greatest strength or your greatest weakness. Which do you think it will be? I do not know yet. That is what makes watching your species interesting. They stood in silence for a while, two warriors from different worlds looking up at the stars together. Somewhere out there, the Zetharians were spreading the word about Earth, about the Sentinel who protected it, about the forbidden world that had woken its guardian. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity was not alone, and that anyone who threatened Earth would face consequences they could not imagine. 3 months had passed since the Zetharian attack. Kiros had kept his promise. Every day he worked with Earth's best scientists and engineers, teaching them about the technology that was common in the galaxy. But he was careful. He never gave them complete designs or finished products. Instead, he taught them the principles and let them figure out the details themselves. Amanda Price led the main research team. She met with Kiros every morning in a laboratory that had been built specifically for their work. Today they were discussing energy shields. "I don't understand," Amanda said, staring at the equations on the screen. "The power requirements for even a small shield are enormous. How do galactic civilizations generate that much energy?" Kiros smiled slightly. It was an expression Amanda had learned to recognize. It meant he was about to make her think differently. "You are asking the wrong question. You assume you need to generate the energy, but energy is everywhere. In the atoms around you, in the space between planets, in the fabric of reality itself. The trick is not generation but extraction. You must learn to pull energy from the quantum field." Amanda stared at him. "The quantum field. That's theoretical. We can barely detect it, let alone use it. It is only theoretical because you do not yet have the tools to measure it properly, but I can teach you to build those tools. Once you can measure it, you can learn to manipulate it. Once you can manipulate it, you can draw power from it." Over the next weeks, Kiros taught Amanda's team how to build quantum sensors. The devices were complex and required materials that Earth didn't naturally produce. But Kairos showed them how to synthesize what they needed. Slowly, painfully slowly, the team began to understand. Meanwhile, Jake Morrison worked with Kiros on military applications, not weapons but defensive systems. Early warning sensors that could detect ships entering the solar system. Communication systems that could send messages across vast distances. Ships that could travel faster than anything Earth had built before. "Why are you teaching us to build ships?" Jake asked one day. "You said we're not ready to leave Earth yet. You are not ready to explore the galaxy, but you should be able to travel within your own solar system. You have other planets here, moons that could be colonized, asteroids rich with minerals. You need to expand beyond your homeworld. If something happens to Earth, your species should not die with it." Jake understood. Kairos was teaching them to spread out, to become harder to destroy. It was sound military strategy, but not everyone on Earth was happy with the pace of progress. Some nations wanted faster results. Some wanted weapons, not defensive systems. Some wanted Kairos to simply give them everything instead of making them work for it. The tensions came to a head during a meeting of world leaders. A representative from a major power stood up and confronted Helen Mitchell. "This is taking too long. We've been working for months, and what do we have? Some theories and prototype sensors. Meanwhile, the Zetharians could come back at any moment. We need weapons now. Real weapons. We need to force Kairos to help us properly." Helen kept her voice calm. "Kairos is helping us. He's teaching us to help ourselves. That's more valuable than anything he could simply give us." "Is it? What happens if he leaves? What if something kills him? Then we're back where we started, defenseless and alone." Helen stood up. "We are not alone. We have each other, and we have the knowledge Kairos is sharing. If we work together, if we actually unite like we promised him we would, we can become strong enough to protect ourselves. But if we keep fighting and arguing, if we keep demanding shortcuts, we'll never get there." The argument continued for hours. Some nations agreed with Helen. Others wanted to move faster, take risks, demand more from Kairos. The unity that had seemed so strong right after the invasion was starting to crack. Kairos watched the broadcast of the meeting from his facility. Jake stood next to him. "They're going to tear themselves apart," Jake said quietly. "We finally have a chance to become something great, and they're going to waste it arguing." "This is the test," Kairos said. The progenitors knew this would happen. They knew humanity would face this choice. Come together or fall apart. Grow up or stay children. Every species faces this moment. Most fail. What happens if we fail? Then I will continue to protect you. But you will never reach your potential. You will remain here, safe behind my shield, but never growing beyond this one world. You will be prisoners of your own fear and greed." Jake felt anger rising in his chest. "That's not fair. We're trying. Most people want to work together. It's just a few loud voices causing problems. Then the quiet voices must become louder. You humans have a saying, the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. The same is true for stupidity and short-sightedness. If the reasonable people do nothing, the unreasonable ones will make the decisions." Jake thought about this for a long time. Then he made a decision. "I need to talk to some people." "Can I use your communication system?" Kairos raised an eyebrow. "What are you planning?" "Something probably stupid, but maybe necessary." Over the next week, Jake contacted military leaders from different nations. People he had worked with over the years. People he trusted. He explained what Kairos had said about the test humanity was facing. He explained that they needed to push their leaders to work together, not pull apart. Slowly, quietly, a movement began. Military officers talking to their governments. Scientists sharing their progress openly instead of keeping secrets. Regular people organizing online, demanding their leaders stop arguing and start cooperating. Amanda joined the movement. She released all her research publicly, making it available to scientists worldwide. Other teams did the same. Within days, research that had been locked behind national security became available to anyone who wanted to study it. Some governments were angry about this. They wanted to keep their advantages. But public pressure forced them to accept it. The people of Earth had seen what unity could accomplish. They didn't want to go back to the old ways. Helen Mitchell called a new meeting of world leaders. This time the tone was different. "We have a choice," she said. "We can keep fighting over scraps, trying to get ahead of each other by inches. Or we can work together and advance by miles. Kairos has given us an incredible gift, knowledge. But knowledge only has value if we use it. And we can only use it effectively if we cooperate." One by one, leaders stood up and agreed. They committed to sharing research. They committed to pooling resources. They committed to treating Kairos' lessons as belonging to all humanity, not individual nations. It wasn't perfect unity. There were still arguments and disagreements. But it was progress, real progress. Kairos watched the meeting and felt something he hadn't felt in 12,000 years. Hope. Not certainty, but hope. Humanity might actually pass this test. That night he invited Jake and Amanda to dinner. It was a simple meal in his quarters. He had learned to eat human food, though he didn't need to. His biology was different, more efficient, but he enjoyed the social aspect of eating together. "You took a risk," Kairos said to Jake, "organizing that movement without official approval. You could have been punished." Jake shrugged. "Some things are more important than following rules. You taught me that. I did no such thing." "You did. You showed us that sometimes you have to act, even when the safe thing is to wait. You woke up early from your sleep to protect Earth. You didn't wait for permission or approval. You just did what needed to be done." Kairos smiled. It was the first real smile Amanda had seen from him. "Perhaps you have learned more than I realized. Both of you have. You understand that knowledge without wisdom is useless, and wisdom comes from making hard choices." Amanda asked the question she had been holding for weeks. "Do you think we'll make it? Do you think humanity will pass the test?" Kairos looked at both of them for a long moment. "I think you have a chance. A real chance. You have shown that you can come together when necessary. You have shown that you can learn and adapt. You have shown courage and creativity, but the test is not over. It never truly ends. Every generation must choose again. Come together or fall apart. Grow or stagnate. Move forward or slide backward." "That's a lot of pressure," Jake said. "Yes, but pressure creates diamonds. And I think humanity might become something brilliant if given enough time and pressure." They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Outside, the stars shone down on Earth. Somewhere out in that vast darkness, other civilizations watched and waited. Some wished humanity well. Others waited for them to fail. And a few, the dangerous ones, waited for the moment when Earth might be vulnerable again. But tonight, Earth was safe, protected by a sentinel from an ancient age, guided by people who chose hope over fear, learning to reach for the stars with determination and wonder. The journey was just beginning. But it was a journey worth taking. 2 years had passed since Kairos emerged from the ice. Earth had changed in ways nobody could have imagined. The first human colony on Mars was thriving with 3,000 people. Mining operations in the asteroid belt produced materials that had once been impossibly rare. Ships built with Kairos' guidance patrolled the solar system, watching for threats. But the biggest change was how humanity saw itself. Nations still existed, but they worked together more than they fought. The dream of true unity was still distant, but progress was being made. Every year brought humanity closer to becoming a true spacefaring civilization. Amanda Price had been promoted to head of Earth's first space station. It orbited between Earth and Mars, a hub for research and travel. She stood in the observation deck looking down at Earth and marveled at how far they had come. Nathan Cross worked beside her. He had specialized in alien biology and was preparing for the day when humanity would make official contact with other species. That day was coming sooner than most people realized. Jake Morrison had retired from active military duty. Instead, he commanded Earth's defense fleet. 12 ships, small by galactic standards but powerful by Earth's measurements. They were fast, well-armed, and crewed by the best people from every nation. Today, all 3 of them stood in the station's command center with Kairos. The Sentinel had called them together for an important announcement. "It is time," Kairos said simply. "Time for what?" Amanda asked. "Time for humanity to meet the galaxy. Not as victims or primitives, but as equals. You have proven yourselves capable. You have shown wisdom and restraint. You have worked together and grown stronger. The progenitors would be proud." Jake felt his heart beat faster. "You're saying we're ready? Really ready?" "Not for everything. You still have much to learn. But you are ready to begin. I have sent a message to the Galactic Council. They govern the civilized species and maintain peace between nations. I have requested that Earth be granted provisional membership." Nathan's eyes went wide. "The Galactic Council. I've read about them in the archives you shared. They're like the United Nations for the entire galaxy." A crude comparison, but accurate enough. They will send representatives to evaluate Earth. They will ask questions, run tests, observe your civilization. If they judge you worthy, you will be granted provisional membership. You will be able to trade with other species, learn from them, and participate in galactic affairs. "And if they judge us unworthy?" Amanda asked quietly. "Then you wait. Continue to develop. Try again in a decade or 2. But I do not believe that will happen. I believe they will accept you." Helen Mitchell had been listening through a communication link. Her voice came through the speakers.
"When will they arrive?"
"Soon, perhaps a week. Perhaps less. They travel quickly when they choose to." The next 6 days were frantic. Earth prepared to meet alien visitors who came in peace, not war. Every major city cleaned its streets. Scientists prepared presentations about human culture and achievements. Military forces practiced ceremonial formations, not battle readiness. Jake drilled his fleet crews constantly. Even though these visitors were peaceful, he wanted to show them that Earth could defend itself, that humanity was not helpless. The Galactic Council ship arrived on the 7th day. It was beautiful, nothing like the aggressive Zetharian vessels. It looked like a crystal sculpture, elegant and graceful. It took up position in high orbit and sent a shuttle down to Earth. 3 beings emerged from the shuttle at the United Nations landing pad. They were different from each other in every way. The first was tall and thin with blue skin and 4 arms. It moved with fluid grace and had large, intelligent eyes. Its name was Silavin, and it represented the Democratic Union of Peaceful Worlds. The second was short and covered in fur that changed colors based on its mood. It had 6 legs and a round, friendly face. Its name was Tark, and it represented the Merchants Guild. The third was the most surprising. It looked almost human, but with golden skin and eyes that glowed faintly. Its name was Orion, and it represented the Varic Federation. Kairos greeted them personally. When he appeared, all 3 visitors bowed deeply. They recognized what he was: a sentinel, a living legend. "Honored Sentinel," Sullivan said in a melodic voice. "We received your message with great interest. A reserve world seeking membership. This has not happened in over 1,000 years. Humanity is ready," Kairos said simply. "Judge for yourselves." For the next 3 days, the visitors toured Earth. They met with leaders and common people. They visited schools and factories. They attended a concert and a sporting event. They ate human food and tried to understand human culture. Tark, the furry representative, seemed delighted by everything. Its fur kept changing to bright, happy colors. Such creativity. Such energy. Humans make wonderful things. Sullivan was more reserved but clearly impressed. "Your species develops quickly. Remarkably quickly. In just 2 years you have built colonies and ships. Most species take decades to accomplish this after first contact." Orion, the human-looking one, was harder to read. It asked many questions about Earth's military capabilities and political structure. Jake spent most of his time with Orion, showing off the defense fleet and explaining Earth's security arrangements. "You are prepared for war," Orion observed. "We are prepared to defend ourselves," Jake corrected. "There's a difference, is there? Many species say they only want defense. Then they build weapons and use them for conquest." "Look at our history," Jake said. "We've fought wars. We've made terrible mistakes. But we've also learned from them. We're trying to be better." Orion studied Jake for a long moment. "I believe you. That is rare. Most species lie about their intentions, but I can see that you genuinely want peace even while preparing for war. That is wisdom. On the third day, the visitors gathered with Earth's leaders for the final evaluation. The meeting was broadcast around the world. Billions of people watched and waited. Sullivan spoke first. We have observed your civilization carefully. We have seen your strengths and your weaknesses. We have seen your history of conflict, but also your capacity for cooperation. After much deliberation, we have reached a decision. The pause felt like forever. Amanda held her breath. Nathan gripped his chair. Jake stood perfectly still, every muscle tense. The Galactic Council hereby grants Earth provisional membership. You will be allowed to trade with other species, establish embassies, and participate in council meetings. You will be given access to certain technologies and knowledge. In return, you must agree to follow galactic law and work toward peace. Cheers erupted around the world. People danced in the streets. Nations celebrated together. Humanity had been accepted. They were no longer alone in the universe. They were part of something bigger. But Sullivan raised a hand for silence. Understand, this is provisional membership. You will be watched carefully. If you prove yourselves worthy over the next 10 years, you will be granted full membership. If you fail, if you return to old patterns of violence and division, your membership will be revoked. Do you accept these terms? Helen Mitchell stood up. We accept. On behalf of all humanity, we promise to honor galactic law and work toward peace. We will prove ourselves worthy of this trust. The three visitors bowed. Then Tark's fur turned a brilliant gold color. I am excited to do business with you. Humans make such interesting things. I think we will be good friends. After the ceremony, Kairos found Amanda, Nathan, and Jake together in a quiet corner. Congratulations, he said. You have taken your first step into the larger galaxy. From here, everything changes. What happens now? Amanda asked. What's next for us? You continue to grow. You meet other species and learn from them. You establish trade routes and diplomatic relations. You explore the galaxy and find your place in it. And eventually you teach others just as you were taught. Will you stay with us? Nathan asked. Or will you go back to sleep? Kairos smiled. I will stay for a while longer. You still need a guardian, at least until you are strong enough to stand completely on your own. But yes, one day I will return to sleep. When that day comes, you will be ready. You will be able to protect yourselves and thrive without me. Jake felt a strange mixture of pride and sadness. Thank you, Kairos, for everything. For saving us. For teaching us. For believing in us when we didn't believe in ourselves. I did nothing but show you what you already had inside. The courage, the creativity, the determination. Those were always yours. You just needed someone to help you see them. They stood together, looking out at Earth spinning below the station. A beautiful blue and green world full of life and possibility. A world that had been protected by ancient forces. A world that was now ready to step forward and claim its place among the stars. The galaxy had come for Earth expecting to find primitives. Instead, they found a species with the potential to become great. A species protected by a sentinel from a forgotten age. A species that had faced extinction and emerged stronger. Humanity's journey into the galaxy was just beginning. There would be challenges ahead. Dangers and difficulties. Mistakes and setbacks. But for the first time in their history, humans faced the future together, united by hope and wonder. The ice had given up its secret. The sentinel had awakened, and humanity had proven itself worthy.